G'day everyone. I'm just throwing this as an intro to all of these videos I'm about to upload. These are all spearfishing info videos from Patreon. The Patreon people that I spoke with said they wouldn't mind if these eventually went on YouTube. There's about 9 hours of spearfishing info stuff. Nothing fancy, just me talking to a GoPro on various topics, but it will probably help quite a few new divers because there's like 9 hours of just absolute... I cover everything I've sort of ever learned in the scene. With regards to me spearfishing, probably not a reality at the moment. I was just diagnosed with a disorder called ME a few years back. Stupidly tried to hide it. Shouldn't have actually, because if I come out with these things I can help other people that are struggling through them. But yeah, I haven't even been able to make this video for the last 4 days because I've been and now yeah, I've got enough energy today. But yeah, you can watch the Future of Aquatic Rehab spearfishing video if you want to know more on that. For anyone that wants to help me through this, I will put my PayPal in here. Feel free if you think you're getting value out of this, because sort of everything helps with this. But otherwise, no pressure. Just go out and send us pictures of the fish that you're smashing. And yeah, hope you guys get some info. Okay, g'day crew. So in this week's video, I'm just doing a footage overlay and just to show some footage while I'm having the yarn, because I've got some questions about weedline diving. It might be easier for me to just show you. So Michael, he's been quite good. He asked quite a few questions. Michael Baker, he asked, I was out diving weed ledges today, or weed edges, and there's definitely a neck to it. Maybe some pointers on breathe up while staying on the weed line, positioning when dropping onto the edge, drifting along or staying still in one spot, going in brackets, going to fish or letting them come to you, behavior of fish on weed lines, Johnny's boarfish, spotting and approaching, could be a good info vid. Now, we did the Weedline one within the last few month or so, I can't remember, but we've got a lot of info on. I talk about weed lines, I talk about drifting along the weed lines, looking for fishy places, chumming, using fish for chum on the weed lines and stuff like that. And so that kind of covered it, but then there's a bit more that I could chat about. In terms of spotting fish, I've got some footage of bullfish, and I think I've got a John Dory on this one here. Just made a real quick clip and I'm going to go through and chat about it. So I've got quite a nice sort of clean weed line here, and yeah, I'll sort of play it and just see what I can say. So behavior of fish, Johnny's bullfish. So pointers on breathe up while staying on the weed line. Breathe up, standard. Weed line, as I say in the last one, drifting. Couple of divers, one up, one down, working the weed line properly. Looking for fishy spots, the break in the weed and patches. A lot easier in cleaner water, to be honest. If you want to see where fish are and stuff like that, you have to be a lot more methodical in dirty water, because you're just looking for that color change, maybe that haze, or you already know where the weed line is, and you're just going up and down onto the sand and spending time down on the sand. Now today, this bit of footage is obviously really clean. So this is a spot that I have chosen to dive down to. Broken weed and quite a lot of fish dotted throughout. It's very different when you're on the surface and you're looking down on a weed line. You don't always sort of know how many fish are down there until you dive. Big patch of goatfish here. A sign that it's a fishy kind of area, I guess. Snapper cruising through. Cohero, very good sign. So I've chosen an area here to dive down where you got Cohero stirring up the sand a lot. Body tucked into the weed there, so I'm kind of semi-ish hidden. Blue Mau, nice snapper there. That's actually not a bad little fish there. So just that amount of fish. So I'm not obviously, okay, there's a dory here. I'm not showing spots because I've deleted the footage where there's no fish, and there's big vast stretches of weed line where it's not very fishy, but I've only got the camera on because I'm expecting something to happen because it's so fishy. So so this bit here, obviously I'd actually turned the camera off, gone back down onto the same area,
and there's a dory that's moved in there. That dory might have moved in on that sand and all those bits and pieces there. So this is an area where there's a bit of current moving along this bit of weed too, and there's a it's a nice sort of a frontal kind of area for fish to come on and have a look at. So yeah, come back down, and this dory's just popped out of the weed, so he's obviously just living there. Well, not living, but lingering around in that area. Because of all the commotion, there's a lot of bait there and that for it, and it's just a good little spot. So yeah, stay on the edge on the broken foul and get into where the fish are. Get down into the weed if you can and chill out. Here's what a John Dory looks like in comparison to weed. You know, that fish there is very difficult to spot if it was sitting over there or tucked in under there. I don't know if you guys can actually see that cursor, but very well blended in fish, and yeah, very thin fish. So that's a pretty good example of what to look for with the John Dory. Very difficult to spot from the surface, depending, unless they're sort of lingering side on, and sort of you can see that dot on them, and they do change color depending on if they're in the weed or if they're out over that sand there. So smoke that one. And then this area being so sort of hot, we had snapper, we had John Dory there, we got kingies coming in on the grunt, we had coherer there, blue mau mau, and yeah, the whole rest of that Weedline side probably swim around a good, maybe a K, and there was bugger all going on, and just ended up back at this spot 2 or 3 times. So that goes to show that you shouldn't be dawdling around really where there's no sort of fish. In this area, it's kind of hard to describe the current, but the current's kind of, this is sort of the what kind of a pressure point, I guess. The current is coming onto that weed line there. So here's another spot here too. A lot of spawning snapper in the background there. Big pile of spawn snapper. Some blue moki cruising through. Just good habitat for weedline fish. Up on the pressure point again on a different weed line. Big school of kingfish. They do enjoy hanging out on those areas on the weed lines where you get quite a lot of bait in that, and if you have a bit of current running. So yeah, just the same old with kingies. They can be a bit they can act a little bit differently on the weed line. They can be a bit more willing to leave compared to like a nice rocky drop off outcrop with current coming onto it. Yeah, didn't bother with one there. That last one sort of half tempted me, but no. What a boarfish looks like. So this is my mate Wayne down here, and he spotted this boar, so I've just come down here with the camera, and you could see that you could quite easily swim over this bit and not see that fish, because right now it's sort of tucked in under the weed. But you're kind of looking for a fish, if I can sort of show you, that thin sort of shape, and then you can kind of see these fins flapping out to the sides. Quite often you sort of see that flapping. That's quite a telltale look. That nice long bit there, so you might see it like out, let's say for example, more out in the weed there, you'll see that long thin looking shape, and you see that rapid sort of movement of those fins is that's always what sort of stands out to me, is those petrel fins on the side there. So yeah, Wayne gets a good shot on that one. And the bories can either be very, very dumb, kingies coming in there too, very dumb or very smart. So they'll either, for example, run like mad like a snapper and not come back, or they can let you get right up to them. It's very hard to know what they're going to be like until you sort of can actually get down there and engage them. That's why sometimes it pays just to shoot, depending. So here's another one here, very telltale. You can pick it out there amongst all the weeds, so that's what you're looking for. Clean day makes it very easy to clean them up. Highly suggest for new guys, if you get out to areas like Mercs and stuff like that on those weed lines, these fish are real, I believe that they're real vulnerable. You know, guys just go, oh, the boarfish are on, and they just cruise through and absolutely clean these guys up. I sort of feel bad after killing couple of them. Don't often target them, to be honest. They don't really. They taste bloody good, but they don't really. I don't froth that hard on them. So, yeah, they are epic fish to get, but yeah, you just have to bear in mind, don't go and kill a whole big pile of them. If you're having a real good day on them, and you know, you can swim a weed line in some areas, and you can see sort of over a dozen. Sometimes we've seen 30 fish, 40 fish in a day. So yeah, pretty silly. Didn't care too much, and that was sort of just mid weed line, not actually that much fish around. That was just sort of swimming that weed line and out on that broken weed. But we're quite lucky with that really nice water there, so you can see it. Up here on the about 20 meters out in front, a nice little bend in the weed line with lots and lots of blue mau, which is always quite a nice sign. So yeah, here's another bory here. So this one here's hanging out on a. This isn't on the weed break. This one's actually out on a just a patch of kelp. So you got to remember, they're not only on the weed line if you're getting into doing weed lines, but there's actually quite a few fish can be out on patches of kelp that are running along out on the sand a bit further. So yeah, this fish here sort of gauging it, and quite a, I wouldn't say silly, but just friendly fish. Yeah, wasn't really too fussed about me there. So and again, they're not an overly fishy area, just sitting out on quite a sort of barren area there, just with a couple of goatfish, and yeah, not much going on. So can pay to just look and cover ground in that sort of circumstance there. So yeah, I think that's about all I've got there. I'm just going to double check I've checked it all. So checked it all off. Pointers on the breathe up. How to Spearfish series, rate yourself relaxation technique. That's all I can really say. Just a generic breathe up, chill out. If you got a good current, you can go with the current, so you don't have to swim against it and work too hard. Positioning when dropping onto the weed edge. When I'm diving down onto a weed edge, I normally tuck in quite close to it and stir up a bit of sand. Yeah, you can get a teriyaki in that doing that too. It's quite a good sort of technique, and actually looking for those fishy areas. If you have areas where there are pori and stuff like that too, it pays to look into them, make sure there's no teriyaki in there. Drifting along with staying still in one spot. Definitely drifting. Staying in one spot if it's really fishy and you just want to work it, but after 20 minutes, you know, you're gonna. That spot with the kingies and the John Dory were before, we probably spent about half an hour there. That's just because there was snapper moving in. But yeah, generally moving, but it depends how many options you've got. And yeah, that's pretty much covered. So cheers for that. Really appreciate that videos coming in, that questions coming in. If you guys have any more questions, please just get at me. I can do more overlays like this of different species like snapper and kingfish and stuff like that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you on the next one.